Okay, Genesis, we're going to be in Genesis 25. Genesis 25. Let me pray and we'll get started here. Father, thank you for the privilege of being here. Lord, watch over those that are not here. May we honor you in every way this evening. Open our hearts to your word and your word to our hearts. For your glory and the glory of your Son. Amen. All right. Chapter 25. Abraham took another wife. How many of you are aware that Abraham was married more than once? Right? However, this wife is really not a wife. She's a concubine. Okay, we're going to be told that, right? 1 Chronicles 1:32. The sons of Keturah, Abraham's concubine. So they don't have a word in Hebrew for wife as we understand it. And so it's just Abraham took another woman is all that it says. But she's a concubine, less than a whole wife, okay? Her name was Keturah. Keturah means perfume or incense, okay? She bore to him, and now we have a list of names here. She bore to him Zimran, means to be a fowler or to ensnare, and Jokshan, to quarrel or brawl, okay? By the way, I can't tell what all these names mean, but some of these, when these children are born, some of these may just be, this baby is born, he's a bit of a fighter, okay? Fighting his mom, fighting his dad, etc. And Medan, we have Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, which means kind of a brawl or strife, and Midian, another form of Medan, okay, meaning the same thing. Ishbak, the one who quits or leaves, as in, leave me alone. Little babies like that, okay? Okay, also you have Shua, means to sink or to bow down in humility. Okay, verse 3, and Jokshan became the father of Sheva, meaning as unknown, and Dedan, that meaning is unknown. The sons of Dedan were Asherim, which means blessed or prosperous ones. The Latushim, these are the sharpened one, and these are more tribal. And the Lumim, which means to gather together. The sons of Midian were Ephah, means obscurity or covered with darkness. Epher means dust or gazelle. Okay, Hanok means to be initiated or dedicated. No, we're not told to whom. Okay, and Avida, father of knowing or the knowing father, and Eldah, god of knowing or the God who knows. Okay, all these were the sons of Keturah. Now Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. Now notice he's passing on the estate, but he is still alive. Okay. But Abraham, by the way, at this point in time, is pretty much faded from the scene. He's getting very, very old, and I think that you see couples where all of a sudden the son and the daughters or some of the little ones are taking care of the adults in their latter age, if and when they can't function here. Now he gave everything he had to Isaac. Now verse 6, but to the sons of his concubines, now notice plural. Hagar was a concubine, Keturah was a concubine. Is there more? I don't know. Okay. But he gave gifts to the concubines while he was still living, and he sent them away from his son Isaac eastward to the land of the east. Okay, so Isaac is going to inherit, but he wants the other boys to go on. Okay. By the way, it's not a bad idea so that they can control the inheritance and where it's going. Okay. Now, the servant Eliezer had already informed Rebekah's relatives that all of the estate of Abraham had already been passed on to him. All right. By the way, this should affect your reading. I've heard the prodigal in the Gospels where they say, when he says, "Give me my inheritance," it's like saying, "I wish you were dead." But you'll notice that's not quite how that works. Okay, he may not be saying that at all. In those days, you didn't have to die to pass on your inheritance. Okay. Now, these are all the years of Abraham's life, which he lived 175 years. Or, literally, if you want the Hebrew, it says 100 years and 70 years and 5 years. And Abraham breathed his last. Literally, he breathed out. He died in a ripe old age, in a long bearded age, by the way, an old man, satisfied, number 7, with life, and he was gathered to his people. Then his sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him. By the way, Ishmael is the son of a concubine. There are other sons of the concubine. Where are the other sons? Don't know. How come just Ishmael and Isaac? What about the other concubine children? They're not here. Okay. We don't know what kind of a relationship, if any, that he had with them. Maybe because Ishmael was kind of the first concubine child and older than the rest, he was contacted. I do not know. Maybe he was there when his father passed away. I do not know that either. Okay. Then his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. Okay, this is a folded rock area. Okay, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, facing Mamre, the oaks of Mamre. Remember, he was going there for a time. The field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There, Abraham was buried with Sarah, his wife. It came about after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac. Now, notice, interesting, Isaac, all of his blessing and things come in after the death and resurrection that he pictured up in a parable, right, on Mount Moriah. And after Abraham's out of the scene, he gets blessed. And he lived by Beer Lahai Roy. This is the well of life of the seer or prophecy, either one, okay? Now, these are the records of the generations of Ishmael. Now, the records of the generations is always the offspring of whoever it's talking about. Okay? Now, these are the records of the generation of Ishmael, and it will say that 12 times in this book, and I think those are the 12 sections. Abraham's son, whom Hagar, the Egyptian Sarah, bore to Abraham. Now, these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names, in the order of their birth. The firstborn is Nebaioth, okay? His name, by the way, means fruitful or to germinate. It could be just describing he was the first fruit child that I have. And Mishma, okay, Mishma means dark colored. Excuse me, not Mishma, but Kedar means dark colored. That's the next one there. Do you remember in the Song of Solomon mentions the tents of Kedar? Those would be the tents of black, just dark tents. That's what they would be, black tents. Okay, Kedar. Abdil, okay, means grief or chastisement of God. I don't know the background of that, what's going on. Mibsam means fragrant or spicy. Mishma, okay, this means to be a hearer or reporter or a tattletale. Okay, kind of thing. There are parents who do that. You know, you go to the store, they send the 3-year-old, the informant. I think the idea, the tattletale, kind of thing. That's Mishma. Okay. Duma, it means to be silent or not speaking. Perhaps the child was just quiet. It was very, very quiet. Okay. Then we have Mesa, means a burden. Okay. And perhaps this child has some burden or difficulty that they're going to have to bear the rest of their life. It's unknown. Verse 15 is Hadad. That means to be sharp or severe. Perhaps this is a child of a temper. Don't know. Okay. Tema is unknown. Okay. Jeter, it means to encircle, to put things in a row. Like it's a kid who likes things in order, kind of thing. Okay. And then you have Kedma, means to be, where am I at here? I must have missed one of these things. Anyway, Nefesh means soul, as in get your soul back here. Abidah and Eldah. Abidah is father of knowing. I'm on the wrong page here. Nefesh Kedema means to be in the front or the first. Maybe this is a little child that wants to be in before everybody else. Verse 16. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their villages. This is a word that means to be surrounded by a stockade. So it's a stockade village. Okay. A village, and by their camps. This is a word for walls. 12 princes or sheiks, according to their tribes. This is just a word for somebody's like a prince or a sheik of a group of people. Okay? And now notice we got 12 princes. Now watch what's going to happen. Later on, Isaac is going to have Jacob, and Jacob will have 12 boys. So you have 12 nations born according to the flesh, 12 born according to God's blessing, etc. And I think that plays out as you have this competition going on here. Now these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he breathed his last, and he died, and was gathered to his people. And they settled from Havilah to Shur. Havilah means a circular, like a valley area. And Shur means to be traveling around, okay? It's used of the traveling merchants, and it's used of the traveling harlots. And they settled from Havilah to Shur on the east of Egypt, as one goes to Assyria, means the land of prosperity. And he settled in the defiance of his relatives. I don't know what that is, but somebody's asked to move on, and he refused to move on. Remember, he's a wild ass of a man, kind of thing. Couldn't tame him. He just kind of did what he wanted. Not much has changed. Verse 19, these are the records of the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, which is interesting. He'll be 60 years old when he has his first child, so for 20 years, Rebekah couldn't have a child. Okay? The daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, we get our word Aramaic from this, from Padam Aram. This means the plateaus or high places of Arum, which is the high place of the high place. The sister of Laban, the white, the Aramean, to be his woman, to be his wife. 21, Isaac prayed to the Lord, or to Yahweh, on behalf of his wife, because she was barren. Now this is interesting. This is the word that means to have no roots. I take it from this that she has no female plumbing, so she couldn't have a child if she wanted to. You get the idea? So he brings it to Yahweh, God intervenes, and all of a sudden there's another miraculous birth. And there are going to be twins here. And Yahweh answered him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And again, couldn't do that? You can now. Remember, there are 7 miraculous births in the Bible. These ladies can't bear, and all of a sudden they do bear. The children struggled together. That's the understatement of the year. The word for struggle, it means to break things, to bruise and crush. They're having an all-out gang war with each other, kind of thing. And they struggled. They're fighting it out together inside of her. And she said, if it's so, why then why is this happening to me? She says, kind of a thing. Okay, so she went to inquire of Yahweh. These 2 boys are fighting inside of her. I cannot imagine that. And when they're born, they'll fight. And they're going to fight their whole lives, right? So she went to Yahweh. And Yahweh said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. One people shall be stronger than the other, and the older is going to serve the younger. Now that's quite profound. Do you remember Jacob, when he was working 7 years for one gal, and then he woke up with her sister, and the guy says, it's not custom around here for the younger to marry before the older. There's certain firstborn rights in that world, all over that world. And so God is going to intervene. You'll notice in Genesis, in God's line, the firstborn is never firstborn. Not one time. He's always changing it around. So when we get to the New Testament, it says Jesus is the firstborn of all creation, and the cults will translate that first created. But the word born and the word created, not the same words, right? They're very different. And they don't see or understand that in Scripture, oftentimes the firstborn is not firstborn. Okay? Verse 24, and when the time came to be delivered, behold, there were twins in her womb. Twins is the word for Thomas, by the way. Thomas the twin. That's the advantage of sometimes knowing these names. When I see a guy named Thomas, I know he's got a twin brother somewhere. Okay? Thomas the twin. Now the first came forth. He was red all over like a hairy garment. And they named him Esau. Can you imagine, like a hairy garment? Picture somebody wearing the garment of a llama and all this kind of stuff over here. And he's just covered, kind of thing. I remember when I was in junior high, I remember a guy who we were impressed because he was like 13 and 14. He could walk in and buy beer. I mean, he was shaven. He had beards. I mean, and you'd expect, this guy's like the rest of us, but he's not. He's just huge. He's just a hairy guy, great big hairy guy, kind of thing. By the way, it's a terrible thing to be impressed with, right? The idea. But he could do certain things just because of that, okay? He had this all over him. He was like a hairy garment, and they named him Esau, which means Mr. Rugged, okay? Rugged guy, okay? By the way, I've seen a couple of boys, newborn boys and toddler boys, who had for some reason, God had early on gave them a real rough, manly look. They're little toddlers, but they're just manly looking, kind of a thing. I think that's the picture here. He's going to spend his whole life being kind of hairy from top to bottom, right? We just found Bigfoot. Okay, get the idea? All right. So they named him Mr. Rugged, Esau. Now, after his brother came out, and his hand was holding on to his Jacob. Esau's Jacob, his heel, his Jacob. Okay, so his name was called Jacob. Heel grabber is the idea here. And Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to them. Now, we don't know exactly how old Rebekah is, but Isaac is up there. He was married for at least 20 years and no children. She could not have children. Now, the boys grew up. Esau became a skillful hunter, literally a knowing hunter. He knows the game, right? He is skilled at what he does. He's an outdoorsman. He loves the hunting, etc. And he's a man of the field. There's your outdoorsman idea. Okay? He doesn't like to be indoors. He's a guy that likes to be out. He likes to be hunting. Okay? You know, over in Emmett, I know two brothers over there I've known for decades. And they are hunters, the hunters. And when they don't have a tag and they're not hunting, they still go to the mountains. They don't take a gun, but they go up and take binoculars and they go scouting elk and deer kind of thing. So they know where the game is. And these guys, every time they go hunting for absolutely anything, they get it every time. It's just incredible. They're just kind of it's kind of a hobby with them. I don't want to use the term addicted because they're not up there shooting them, but they're up there they love doing this. They're just outdoorsmen. They're the real thing. Hard-working, real tough guys, right? They grew up. Esau was a skillful hunter. He knows about hunting, a man of the outdoors, the fields. But Jacob, he was a peaceful man, okay? He liked to hang out in tents, right? Living in the tents. Now notice notice the plural, tents, moving from tent to tent kind of thing. Now, Isaac loved Esau because he had a mouth for game. I love that word mouth, and that is the word that's there. He liked the taste of game, okay? By the way, how many of you don't like the taste of game? Usually it's the ladies. They don't like the gamey taste kind of thing. And some guys just love that stuff kind of thing. And I remember a guy one time, he invited somebody over for some elk meat, so they had elk dinners. And the guy took a bite of it. I don't know if it's the first time, but he didn't like it. It had a gamey taste to it. And he was outraged because that guy just doused that whole elk steak in ketchup kind of thing, which is, by the way, in elite restaurants, ketchup is an insult to even request it kind of thing. Well, welcome to Idaho. Yeah. So, kind of thing. I was listening to a guy this morning on the news, and he was being interviewed, and he's a comedian, and he was over in Australia. I said, have you tried the Australian cuisine? He said, yeah, I went to McDonald's today. He went there, and I said, what do you like to eat? He said, I got to tell you the truth, I like McDonald's. He likes going there, kind of thing. You know, you put enough ketchup and mustard and basic things on anything, it tastes pretty good, doesn't it? You get the idea. All right, so moving on here. Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste. He had his mouth. He liked the taste of game, wild game. But Rebekah, she loved Jacob. Now notice he's more the mama's boy, hanging out in the kitchen, that sort of thing. Now, by the way, why does he like his son? This is important. He's kind of a macho young man, quarterback, runs the touchdowns, right? Now Jacob had literally Jacob had stewed a stew, and it's just the word for boiling and things like that. This thing is really boiling and hot, okay? Now Esau, Mr. Rugged, he came in from the field. He was famished, okay? He was famished. Now let me tell you something. When Jacob got ready to send his boys down to Egypt, right? Do you remember he gave them nuts and breads and things? This is a huge camp, right? There's a lot of people in this camp, hundreds of people in this camp, right? There are loaves of bread everywhere. There are dates. There are nuts. There's all this other stuff. But he don't want that. I'm going to die. Well, then have a loaf of bread, right? He don't want that. He wants that hot stew. There's food galore, okay? He's famished, so Esau said to Jacob, hey, give me some of that stuff there to swallow, some of that red stuff right there. And he calls it red stuff twice because I'm famished. Okay. Therefore, his name was called Edom. Remember, Edom, this is a form of Edom and Adam's name. And it means red. Now, there's more people around here than Jacob. You can bet on that, because watch what happens. Now, Jacob said, well, sell me your birthright. Now, Hebrews 12 tells us he despised that birthright. Absolutely despised it. Would walk on it. It's just trash as far as he's concerned. This thing's all things, it's a silly joke. Yahweh and all that kind of stuff, right? He despised that stuff. Okay? Jacob didn't. Jacob wants that firstborn right? Okay? The right of his father. And Esau said, behold, I am about to die. So what use is that birthright to me? And again, there's food everywhere, but that's not the point. I'm going to die. Literally, I'm walking towards death right now. Mr. Melodramatic. Jacob said first, or literally today, that word first appears twice in here and it's not there. It's just the word today. Swear to me. So he swore to him. He sold his birthright to Jacob. This would be in the presence of those witnesses. So then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew. He ate and he drank, and he rose and went on his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Absolutely despised it, right? Remember the double portion that he would have gotten? That birthright included earthly blessing and heavenly blessing. It includes being in the line that you are going to be the seed of God Almighty, and God's going to embrace you, okay? I'm walking into death. I'm just going to die. Okay, swear this day. Okay, this is Hebrews 12:16. Also, do not be a sexually immoral or profane, trampling on things, because that's what the word profane, it means walk on holy things, right? You just walk on them, right? Kind of thing. Who sold his birthright for something to eat. By the way, he's a rich man, right? Somebody's going to be a very rich man, okay? Because remember, Abraham's inheritance passes down, and he's a multi-billionaire type of guy. There's a lot of money at stake here, and kind of thing. It would be like the equivalent of a ranch owner. You got cattle, you got sheep, you got all this kind of stuff. You got silver, you got gold, huge bank accounts, kind of thing. And he sold it all for a bowl of soup. And frankly, I've had lentil soup. It's okay, but it's not worth my house and my ranch and my cars and kind of thing. You'll notice that Jacob seems to understand his brother despises this, but no, Jacob is far from perfect, isn't he? But he wants that birthright. He's in on it. Jacob is a bit more spiritual to say he's sensitive to spiritual things. His brother despises them, and he is far from perfect. He's not a perfect guy here. Okay, chapter 26. Now, there was a famine. By the way, in Hebrew, you would just say literally, there was a hunger in the land. Famine, a hunger in the land. Okay, besides the previous hunger in the land that occurred in the days of Abraham. So Isaac went to Gerar, okay? He went to Gerar, to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines. Now, Gerar means to drag things around roughly, or to pick them up, chew the cuts where things get broken up, kind of a thing. Now, I don't know what was going on down there, and or why it got its name from that, but that's what it means. And Yahweh appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. Stay in the land, which I'm going to tell you. Okay? Sojourn in the land, and I will be with you, and I'm going to bless you. For to you and to your seed, not descendants, your seed, Galatians says, and that seed is Jesus Christ. Okay, I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath or the covenant which I swore to your father Abraham. Okay, now remember, when the Bible speaks of Israel, the fathers, that's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because the promise of the seed was made only to those three. Only to those three. Okay, verse 4, I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heaven. These will be the brothers of the Lord Jesus, and will give your seed all these lands. Okay. And by your seed, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Okay. Now the seed gets the land. Do you remember? You shall call the virgin will conceive, and you're going to call him Emmanuel. The very next chapter says Israel is Emmanuel's land. He owns that property. Okay. Verse 5. Now Abraham. You'll find this interesting. You see that word obeyed? It is the word Jacob. Abraham grabbed the heel of me and kept my charge. I think he's playing off of Jacob's name. Okay? And he kept my charge. Okay? He kept my commandments. He kept my statutes. These are writings or carvings. and he kept my laws. Okay? Abraham was all in. By the way, he's all in. He knows the Lord. He has conversations with Yahweh. Is he perfect yet? Not even close. Verse 6. So Isaac lived in Gerar, and the men of that place asked about his wife. And here we go again. He said, "What? She's my sister." I can't believe he just said those words. Okay? This is my sister. For he was scared to say, my wife, thinking, the men of this place might kill me on account of Rebekah, for she is beautiful. Okay? Where did he learn this practice? His dad. Okay? By the way, do you remember when the Lord talks about the sins of the fathers being visited upon the children? Because the children tend to pick things up from their dads. Remember your dad at your glory. Remember that? You admire certain things when you're growing up in your father, even if he's not perfect. Now, and it came about, he'd been there for a long time, that Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, looked out through a window and he saw, and behold, Isaac was caressing his wife, Rebekah. Now, we don't have an English word that fits this right here, okay? He literally leans out through the window, probably get a better, he sees what's going on down here. This is a word. It can be like playing in sports, and it includes laughing and things like that. It's a full contact sport kind of an idea. And he and his wife are giggling and being physical. He says, that's not your sister. Nobody touches their sister like that, kind of thing. And I would agree. I've got a sister. There are certain things I would never do with my sister. This would be weird. And then Abimelech called Isaac and said, behold, certainly she's your wife. You would never have touched your sister that way. And he then, how then did you say, this is my sister? Isaac said to him, because I said, lest on account of her, I die. All right. And Abimelech said, whoever touches you, or what is this you have done to us? Excuse me, he's going to say, one of the people may have easily lain with your wife, and you had been brought guilt. By the way, this is like guilt as in prosecution upon us. Evidently, they had laws in that day about doing that sort of thing. Many nations have had those type of laws. So Abimelech charged all the people, saying, he who touches this man's wife, surely he shall be put to death. Same expression for Adam. Dying, you're going to die. You'll be dead, and you're going to be dying. It could be a slow, torturous death or something like that. Now Isaac sowed the land and reaped that same year 100-fold. Do you remember Jesus said, 40-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold, that kind of thing. 100-fold. That is quite impressive. By the way, 100-fold. 100-fold. You invest $1, how much you get back? Yeah. You invest $1 million, how much you get back? $100 million. You understand? You don't get that from Wall Street. You don't get that from gold. You don't get that from silver. You just don't get that. Okay. So when Jesus talks about getting some 40 would be great too, is right? 1 million equals 40 million back. You just ride that baby out in a few years, you're going to be fine. And you understand, this is what's coming. When Jesus uses that type of expression, you cannot lose if you serve him. You can't lose, possibly. You can't possibly do that. Okay? By the way, Jesus is being fruitful in us. He calls it the fruit of the Spirit. And do you remember the Corinthians when Paul said, you guys may lose everything. You guys are anything but Spirit-filled Christians. You're going to blow it all, right? Kind of thing. Miss the whole point. Okay, 100-fold, that's incredible, that's miraculous, because Yahweh had blessed him. I cannot grasp in my heart and in my mind what it's going to be like when Jesus said not one cup of water given in the name of a prophet or a righteous man or a disciple or a student is not going to be rewarded. My goodness, that's like a father overpaying and over rewarding his 3-year-old. Okay, he could command us, and he doesn't owe us anything, because if he commands us to do something, he's our Lord. We have to do it anyway, right? But the idea when your dad comes home, you're a 3-year-old, and you tried to make the bed, and it's now worse than when you started. You tried to help mom cook. Now the whole kitchen's wiped out. Everything you've done has, you can't understand. But you would say, well done. I think you've earned about $30, $40 kind of thing. You would say. You can see the brother saying, No, he didn't. But Jesus is telling us that God loves us that much. What can I do to bless you? How can I do this with you? Make this 100-fold, way beyond your wildest dreams. And I'm going to do that kind of thing. And my goodness, a good friend of mine in Boise is with the Lord now. He brought up several times, and the last time he was really devastated because I haven't led anybody to the Lord, and I've tried, and all it does is I end up losing my friends and things like that. And then when I found out what ministries he was given to, and he was a large giver of gifts to these ministries, and I finally said, you know what, I think you've given a lot of cups of cold water, a lot of them. Okay, he did. He really did. He was supporting them. Okay, do you know how a full-time missionary stays on the mission field? Not by holding a job on the mission field. People from back home send resources to him. That's how he's there, right? Without them, he's got to come home, right? And so he is there, and everybody who's supporting him is participating in his wages. They're working this thing out together. Okay? Remember when David, those who stay with the baggage will get just as much share as those that went to the battle. Okay? Why? Because if you don't put somebody with the baggage, you got no baggage. You lose everything you own, right? And so in a time of war, the secretary back in the war room who's doing that, and the others moving around the little models of where the ships are and things like that, everybody's in the game. Okay? Now, verse 13. And the man became rich. Now he started off rich, now he's richer. And he continued to grow richer until he became very wealthy, very rich. I don't know how you do that. He became rich, he became richer, and he can tell you he's extremely rich. Kind of thing. And he had possessions of flocks, herds, and a great household, so that the Philistines envied him. And all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham, his father, the Philistines stopped them up by filling them up with earth, or topsoil, literally, kind of. That's a strange thing to do to a well if it's already dug. But you understand, they don't want Abraham's memory around. And what a terrible, foolish thing to do. Then Abimelech said to Isaac, go away from us because you are far too powerful for us. Okay? And Isaac departed from there, and he camped in the valley of Gerar, and he settled there. Now, then Isaac dug again the wells of water which had been dug in the days of his father Abraham. Remember, Abraham would go place to place, build an altar, proclaim the name of Yahweh. He's digging wells because you got to have water, right? You're digging wells. Okay? For the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham and gave them the same names which his father had given them. But when Isaac's servants dug in the valley, and they found there a well of living water, and mine says flowing, some of you say fresh water. The word fresh water is living water, right? Living water moves. They would be, by the way, if it's living water, there are two types of wells. One well catches rainwater, etc. That's what it does, and it just sits there, right? Other wells you can dig into that actually have streams or things like that flow through them. It refreshes it, okay? By the way, what happens to a pond of water if there's no fresh water going in, no old water going out? What's going to do? It's stagnant. You want to drink it? No, it's a stench. You don't want it, right? Okay, that's earthly, stenchy water. They said, we have found living water. Even my grandsons, both my grandsons can tell you what living water is. It's rapids, it's rivers, it's creeks, it's water is moving, okay? And by the way, it tells you something about life, right? When things are alive, they're moving, okay? We have found living water, okay? And the herdsmen of Gerar, this is the word for herdsmen, it's the word for shepherds or herdsmen, it's either one, okay? Quarreled with the herdsmen of Isaac, saying, the water is ours. So he called the name of that place Esek. Okay? Because they esseked with him. They called it contention because they were contending with him. That means pressure and quarreling, striving, ready to go to blows and violence. So that's what he called it. It's a place of violence around here. By the way, remember the Philistines, go away, you're way too powerful. Do you think he's powerful enough to deal with this? I think so. He doesn't. He just, I'm going to do this. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over it too. So he named it Sitnah. Now, I don't know why they're doing this. They argued over that, okay? Let me show you something. if I take the vowels out, because Hebrew has no vowels, and the first letter is S, and the second letter is T, and the third letter is N. Can you guess what that spells? It spells Satan. Now in Hebrew, if you take the word Satan, which means an obstacle, an enemy, okay, and you put an A sound, not like Robert for Roberta, right? If you put that A on there, it translates slander. Slander, okay? You find the same thing in the New Testament, 1 Timothy 3. A woman, he says she can't be a deacon if she is a she-devil. You understand? If she's gossiping, slandering, if she's doing that, right? So he calls that place slander. Okay, and the word for quarrel here is to have a beef, like in a court of law and that kind of thing. You bring the accusations, and he says, this is just lies. They're accused, you guys did this, and we had paperwork. I don't remember where I put it, but I got the paperwork that this is mine. Things like that, right? And they're slandering him, and he just says, no more, I'm moving on. So he moved away from there. He dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called it Rehoboth, which means like breathing room. So we're spread out. We can relax here. And at last, Yahweh has made room for us, which is what it means to have enough room. Okay, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Okay. By the way, you'll notice he can't be fruitful until he's at peace, right? Because you're planting crops. Got to have water for crops, and you got to thing. So he went there. From there to Beersheba. This is where Abraham was, the well of the oath, or the well of swearing. Okay? And Yahweh appeared to him the same night, and he said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Don't you be afraid, because I am with you. That is, of all this fighting and these contentions, these other guys. Okay, I will bless you and multiply your seed, singular, for the sake of my servant Abraham. Not for your sake, but for his sake. And there are things that are going on here. You're a part of that kind of thing. Now, he did something he'd never done before. He built an altar. This is his first altar. And he's an older guy, isn't he? He's following in the footsteps of Abraham. And he called out or proclaimed the name of Yahweh. There we go again. And he pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. All right, now notice, he gets back, they've got room, he's proclaiming Yahweh's name, God's blessing him and appearing to him, they've got water, everything is running well here, okay? Then Abimelech came to him from Gerar with his advisor, Ahuzat, and Phicol, the commander of the army. Now you will notice these are the same names when the Philistine king came to Abraham. Because they're not names or titles, like president or Caesar or prime minister. That's these terms that are being used here, okay? Ahuzah, it means possessions, or a guy who's in charge of possessions, okay? And then he's got his advisor. It literally means somebody who eats with the king. That's what an advisor would be doing. He eats with the king. Phicol, one who speaks on behalf of others, because by the way, he's actually, it's the one who speaks for everybody, that is, for the whole army. Prince of the army, like a general, okay? Now, it's been 90 years since Abraham was around there, but the same titles are still in use. Verse 28. And they said, we see plainly that Yahweh has been with you. I want you to notice something. These guys are not worshipers of Yahweh, but what did they just say? We can see this. This is happening. I mean, we've got land here. We worship our pagan gods, and it ain't working out very well. And you just walk around with Yahweh, building altars and proclaiming Yahweh. Right? I think it's, by the way, you'll notice, even in the scriptures, what you have here is, even in their failures, they're succeeding. Okay? And God can turn all things for the good. Not because we do it perfectly, because we don't. We actually don't. By the way, if God's going to make everything work for the good, then how many things weren't good? Nothing wasn't good. Not a single thing was good. But now everything is working on there, right? Even for 3-year-olds, Dad's going to make it work, and because He's there with us, right? It's God who's inside of you. Okay? We see plainly Yahweh has been with you. So we said, let there now be an oath between us even between you and with us, and let us make a covenant with you. We have to get along with each other here, okay? Now notice he's left their land, and it's almost like they're going to go get him. Well, we didn't mean go permanently all the way. And you will do us no harm, just as we didn't touch you, and we've done nothing to you but good, and sent you away in peace. With everything was good when you left. You are now the blessed of Yahweh. Now, it seems interesting to hear Philistines using the word Yahweh. But they see that blessing. They see the proclamation. This is going on. He made them a feast, and they ate and they drank. And in the morning they arose early. They exchanged oaths. Then Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. Now it came about on the same day, Isaac's servants came in and told him about the well that they had found. We have found water. Okay? So he called that place Shivna. Okay, therefore, the name of that city, it is the name of the city, Beersheba, where Abraham was, to this day. Notice you got two cities, but the same name. Okay, Esau was 40 years old. He married Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite. Okay, do you remember Esau's a rugged man? He's an outdoorsman. He's a hunter. Okay, and Hebrews 12, the New Testament said, and he likes the girls. Okay, now the girls that he's with, and he's fornicating. He's the quarterback and sleeps with all the cheerleaders and the teams and that kind of stuff. Very immoral man, despises spiritual things. Okay, so he takes his wife. Now you'll find this fascinating here. He marries a gal named Judith. This is the feminine form for the word Jewish. Now, what's strange about that is that Judah has not been born yet, right? You can see his name was taken from this, and it just means praise. Okay. His daughter of Beeri. Now, this is like Beersheba. This is the daughter of the one who is a well, like a water, things fresh with him, but he's a Hittite. And Basmath, which means fragrance or spices, he's the daughter of Elon. That is some young, powerful guy. And they brought they brought bitterness of soul to Isaac and Rebekah. These are vile young ladies, and not the kind of girls you're just proud to call them your daughter-in-law. They're just not. Okay? And a matter of fact, that one of the reasons that Jacob's going to get out of here, they're afraid that Jacob's going to marry girls like this. And they have a conversation as a dad and a mom say, we don't want anything to do with that. Get Jacob out of here, right? Fascinating. Understand? And then Esau, when he realizes dad and mom don't like my wives, okay? What's to like? Yeah, they're Hittites. They're very immoral and all that goes with that. So he's going to move over there by his dad. Or by his uncle, and marry somebody else over there like that. It'll just solve the problems, kind of thing. Anyway, now notice what we're doing here as we work the way through Genesis. This is absolute basic, necessary things. So when we get to the New Testament, he says the seed has arrived. We know what he's talking about, right? We know the seed of the woman, seed of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, etc. And the boys are going to be born, the 12 tribes, etc. And how God is not showing up every single day. He's not doing that. Sometimes decades. But he shows back up and reminds them the deal is still on. In fact, there's a great passage in Jeremiah 30 through about 35, right in there, maybe 36 in there, where the Lord says, look up at the stars. Are they still moving in their fixed orbits? Yeah, he says, then the deal is still on. Okay, so it's a great little promise, right? Keep going out there and look at the stars tonight and see if the deal is still on. Guess what you'll find? The deal is still on. It isn't changed here, right? And all through here, if God decides he needs to talk to one of the patriarchs, he goes there and he addresses with them, but hardly ever, not a lot, but he does that, confirming to them, here's what I want from you. Stay in the land. I'm going to do this, and this is going to happen. I'll see you next year, and Sarah will have a baby. And Sarah says, right. And all of a sudden, she's got a baby, right? And a lot of our prayers are like the prayer meetings for Peter to get him out of jail. Remember that prayer meeting? It's embarrassment to us, but it is true. It is true. Okay. Now, Jacob's going to pick up and deceive his brother, and that's what's coming. He'll meet his match of deception. And by the way, Jacob was a bit of a deceiver. He was. Okay. He's going to go back that same area, and his parents send him there because of the issue of the girls. They don't want Hittite girls. Okay. We got a lot of Hittite girls in our own country. I like that kind of thing. Anyway, we're going to stop right there because we're not even going to get close to getting through chapter 27. But Father, thank you for our time. Thank you for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and showing us what you've been doing with them and how Abraham will be the father of multitudes, which includes the Gentiles, that includes us. That the seed of Abraham, Jesus Christ, our King and Lord, has come as you said he would. And things end, Lord, the way that you have decreed that they will end. Thank you for your kindness, your goodness. The blood of the cross is prefigured through Isaac's sacrifice and going on through there. We love you. Praise you in your name. Amen.